Chapter 1. The Emerald Shadow. Long ago, hidden deep in the misty jungles of India, there was a legendary green emerald that people whispered about in awe. They called it the Serpent's Eye because of its eerie, glowing beauty. This wasn't just any stone. It sparkled with an inner light, like a living creature trapped inside, even when the moon hid behind clouds and the night was pitch black. Anyone who laid eyes on it felt a pull, a strange magnetism that made them dream about it for days. But it wasn't meant for ordinary hands. The emerald was guarded in an ancient temple, surrounded by tall stone walls covered in vines, and watched over by priests who chanted prayers day and night. Legends passed down through generations warned that the stone carried a powerful curse. The serpent's eye watches everything, the priests would say in hushed tones. It brings fortune to its true home, but woe to the thief who dares to steal it. Misfortune will follow like a shadow that never fades. In those days, India was under British rule, and among the soldiers stationed there was Major Edward Thornwood. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a stern face, sharp blue eyes, and a mustache that he twisted when deep in thought. Known for his bravery on the battlefield, he had won medals for charging into enemy lines without fear. But beneath that heroic exterior beat a heart full of greed and selfishness. He didn't care about the local customs or the people he commanded. To him, they were just obstacles in his path to wealth. One evening, as he sat in his tent, sipping strong tea, a local storyteller shared tales of the temple's treasures. When the man mentioned the Serpent's Eye, Major Thornwood's ears perked up. A green emerald that glows in the dark? Worth a king's ransom, he muttered to himself, his mind racing with possibilities. He imagined selling it back in England, buying a grand estate, and living like a lord. The locals tried to warn him. An old priest with wrinkled skin and wise eyes approached him one day. "Sahib, do not think of the stone. It is sacred to our gods. Those who take it invite the serpent's wrath, sleepless nights, broken families, and endless sorrow." But Major Thornwood laughed it off, his voice booming like thunder. "Nonsense! Superstitions are for fools and cowards. I believe in what I can hold in my hand, and my strength will conquer any curse." His officers chuckled nervously, but inside they felt a chill. The major's greed blinded him to the dangers. That fateful night came during a fierce monsoon storm. Rain poured down in sheets, thunder roared like angry gods, and lightning lit up the jungle in flashes. Major Thornwood wrapped himself in a dark cloak and sneaked toward the temple, his boots squelching in the mud. The guards, loyal men dressed in simple robes, stood vigilant with spears in hand. But the major was cunning. He waited in the shadows, then struck swiftly. A quick fight ensued. Grunts, clashes of metal, and cries of pain echoed briefly before silence fell. Blood mixed with the rain on the temple floor as he pried the emerald from its altar. Holding it up, he watched it pulse with green light, reflecting in his triumphant eyes. "You're mine now," he whispered, feeling a rush of power. But as he slipped away into the night, he didn't notice the faint hiss in the wind, like a serpent warning of revenge. When Major Thornwood returned to England, he brought the emerald hidden in his luggage. At first, he locked it away in a secret drawer in his massive oak desk in his sprawling mansion on the outskirts of London. The house was grand, with high ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and gardens full of roses. Life seemed perfect. He hosted parties, drank fine wine, and boasted of his adventures in India. But slowly, cracks appeared. His nights grew restless. He'd wake up sweating from dreams of twisting serpents chasing him through jungles. Strange whispers seemed to echo in empty hallways, making servants jump. His wife, a gentlewoman named Clara, noticed the change first. "Edward, what's wrong? You snap at everyone, and your eyes, they look haunted." He brushed her off harshly. "Mind your own business, woman." Servants began to gossip in the kitchens. The master paces the corridors at midnight, clutching something that glows green through his shirt, one maid whispered. It's like he's possessed. His temper flared over small things. A dropped plate led to shouting, a late meal to threats of dismissal. Friends who once visited for card games stopped coming, excusing themselves with polite letters. He's not the same man, they said. Clara couldn't take it any more. After a particularly vicious argument, she packed her bags and left with their young son, leaving the mansion even colder. The Major was alone now, surrounded by echoing rooms and fading portraits on the walls. Years dragged on like a heavy chain. Major Thornwood grew older, his hair turning gray, his face lined with bitterness. His relatives, who once sought his favor, now avoided him like the plague. Uncle Edward is a monster, his nephews would say. He enjoys making us miserable. But he didn't care. In fact, he reveled in their disdain. Let them hate me, he thought with a twisted smile. It'll make my final act even sweeter. As his health failed, coughs racked his body, and pains shot through his chest, he sat at his desk one dim evening and penned his will. With a quill scratching on parchment, he decreed that the emerald must not be sold or destroyed. Instead, it should go to his young niece, Amelia Hartley, on her 21st birthday. It wasn't out of love, oh no, he knew the curse all too well by now. Sleepless nights had taught him its power. This was revenge, a way to pass the shadow to the family he despised. As he sealed the envelope, a bitter laugh escaped his lips, turning into a cough. In his final days he lay in bed, the emerald on his nightstand glowing faintly. He'd touch it obsessively, feeling its cool surface, but peace never came. He died alone in the silence of his room, no family by his side, no tears shed. The servants buried him quickly, relieved to be free. But the emerald story was far from over. Far across the seas, 3 mysterious Indian men had been on its trail for years. They appeared as humble wanderers, dressed in simple tunics, carrying bags of herbs and trinkets. One was tall and lean, with a scar on his cheek. Another short and sturdy, with a kind smile that hid sharp eyes. The third, wise and elderly, with a beard like silver threads. They sold spices in markets, performed small magic tricks for children, or told fortunes under starry skies. But this was all a facade. Their true mission, sworn in the temple's sacred fire, was to reclaim the Serpent's eye. Patient as the jungle vines that grow slowly but surely, they followed whispers and rumors. From port to port, village to village, they gathered clues about the Major. "We must return it to the gods," the elder would say softly. "The curse will guide us." They never rushed. Time was their ally. Now, with the Major dead, the emerald was set to change hands. Amelia's birthday loomed like a gathering storm. In her cheerful life in Hartley Manor, surrounded by loving friends and family, she had no inkling of the dark gift heading her way. The Serpent's eye was stirring again, ready to weave its shadow into new lives, bringing secrets, heartbreak, and danger that would test everyone to their core. Chapter 2. The Unexpected Present. The day dawned bright and beautiful at Hartley Manor, a charming estate nestled in the rolling English countryside. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, painting the wooden floors in golden hues. Birds chirped merrily in the blooming gardens, where roses and lilies danced in the gentle breeze. The air smelled of fresh-cut grass and baking pastries from the kitchen. It was Amelia Hartley's 21st birthday, and the whole house buzzed with excitement like a beehive in spring. Servants hurried about, polishing silverware, arranging vases of vibrant flowers, and setting up long tables laden with cakes, fruits, and delicate sandwiches. Amelia was the heart of it all, a young woman with flowing auburn hair, sparkling green eyes that matched the emerald unknowingly destined for her, and a laugh that could light up the darkest room. She was kind-hearted, always helping the villagers with charity work or reading stories to the children. Her aunt, Lady Eleanor Hartley, a graceful widow with silver-streaked hair and a warm smile, watched her niece with pride from the drawing-room. "My dear Amelia, you've grown into such a fine lady," she said, hugging her tightly. "This day is all about you. I've invited all our closest friends and family. It will be unforgettable." The loyal butler, Thomas Wilkins, an elderly man with a neatly trimmed beard and a voice as steady as a grandfather clock, oversaw the preparations like a general on the battlefield. He had served the Hartley family for over 40 years, knowing every nook and cranny of the manor. "Hurry now, Mary," he called to a maid. "The flowers must be perfect. Red roses for passion, white lilies for purity. And John, make sure the champagne is chilled just right. Our guests must feel like royalty." The staff nodded eagerly, their uniforms crisp and starched. The kitchen was a whirlwind of activity, cooks whisking eggs, bakers pulling golden loaves from the oven, and the scent of vanilla and cinnamon wafting through the halls. By noon, guests began arriving in carriages that clattered up the gravel driveway. There were cousins in fancy dresses, uncles with booming laughs, and friends from London with tales of city adventures. Amelia greeted each one at the door with grace and enthusiasm. "Oh, Cousin Eliza, how wonderful to see you. Tell me about your trip to Paris," she said, her eyes shining. Among the arrivals was her cousin Victor Langford, a dashing young man with dark hair, a charming smile, and a secret admiration for Amelia that made his heart race whenever she was near. He handed her a small bouquet of wildflowers. "Happy birthday, Amelia. You look radiant today," he said softly, his voice betraying a hint of nervousness. She blushed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Thank you, Victor. It's so good to have you here." The party unfolded like a dream. In the grand ballroom, a string quartet played lively tunes and guests danced across the polished floor. Laughter filled the air as stories were shared around the fireplace, tales of childhood mischief, family legends, and future dreams. The birthday luncheon was a feast. Roasted pheasant with herbs, creamy potatoes, fresh salads from the garden, and a towering cake decorated with sugar flowers and Amelia's initials in icing. Glasses clinked in toasts. "To Amelia, may your life be as bright as this sunny day," Lady Eleanor proclaimed, raising her glass. Cheers erupted, and Amelia's cheeks flushed with joy. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, the moment everyone anticipated arrived, the opening of gifts. Guests gathered in a circle, their faces eager. Amelia sat on a velvet chair surrounded by colorful packages tied with ribbons. One by one, she unwrapped them with delighted gasps. There was a leather-bound book of poetry from Eliza, a delicate pearl necklace from an uncle, a painted fan from a friend in town, and even a pair of embroidered gloves from the villagers. "These are all so thoughtful. I feel so loved," Amelia exclaimed, hugging each giver. Then came the last package, a heavy sealed box delivered by a solicitor under the name of her late uncle, Major Edward Thornwood. Lady Eleanor's smile faltered for a split second. She remembered her brother as a cold, distant man who rarely visited and always left tension in his wake. "From Uncle Edward? I hardly knew him," Amelia said curiously, peeling away the wax seal. The room grew hushed as she lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on black velvet, was the green emerald, the serpent's eye. It caught the light from the windows and sparkled with an otherworldly glow, casting tiny green reflections on the walls, like dancing fireflies. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "What a magnificent stone," someone whispered. "It looks alive," another added. Amelia held it up, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's so beautiful, like a piece of the jungle captured in crystal. I can't believe he left this for me." She turned it in her hand, feeling its smooth, cool surface. Victor leaned closer, intrigued, but with a faint unease. "It's extraordinary, Amelia, but be careful with it." Lady Eleanor touched her niece's shoulder gently. "Yes, dear. Keep it safe. Your uncle was complicated. We don't know what stories this stone carries." As the party wound down, guests departed with hugs and well-wishes, buzzing about the mysterious gift. "That emerald, it's like nothing I've seen," one aunt murmured to another. Victor walked Amelia through the garden as dusk fell, the air cooling and stars peeking out. "Today was perfect," she said dreamily. "And this stone, it's like a secret adventure." He smiled, but inside, a tiny doubt nagged him. That night, Amelia climbed the creaky stairs to her room, a cozy space with lace curtains and a four-poster bed. She placed the emerald carefully in her jewelry box among her other trinkets, a silver locket from her mother, a brooch from her grandmother. What a strange, shining gift, she thought, blowing out her candle. As sleep claimed her, the manor settled into quiet, the only sounds the ticking of clocks and the distant hoot of an owl. Little did anyone know, the serpent's eye had already begun to weave its subtle web, and the peaceful night was the calm before an unimaginable storm. Chapter 3. The Vanishing Act. The next morning broke with the same golden sunlight filtering through the manor's windows, but something felt different, like a faint chill in the air despite the warmth. Servants moved through their routines, maids dusting furniture, the cook preparing breakfast of eggs and toast, and gardeners tending to the flower beds. Thomas Wilkins, ever vigilant, walked the halls with his usual steady gait, but his brow furrowed. He had served long enough to sense when trouble lurked, like a fox sniffing the wind. "Odd," he muttered to himself, "the house feels watchful." Amelia descended the stairs later than usual, her steps slow. Her face, usually bright and rosy, looked pale, with dark circles under her eyes. She sat at the breakfast table, picking at her food without appetite. Lady Eleanor noticed immediately, her maternal instincts kicking in. "Amelia, my dear, are you feeling all right? You seem out of sorts." Amelia forced a weak smile, stirring her tea absent-mindedly. "I'm fine, Aunt Eleanor, just a restless night. Strange dreams about green lights and shadows." Victor, who had stayed overnight, glanced at her with concern. "Perhaps the excitement of yesterday tired you out," he suggested gently. As the morning progressed, whispers began among the staff. A maid named Sarah, while cleaning Amelia's room, gasped when she opened the jewelry box to dust it. "It's gone! The emerald! It's vanished!" Word spread like wildfire through the kitchens and corridors. By noon, the entire household knew. Lady Eleanor rushed upstairs, her face draining of color as she saw the open box. The other jewels, pearls, rings, brooches, sat untouched, but the serpent's eye was nowhere to be found. "This can't be," she whispered, her hands trembling. Amelia stood frozen, staring at the empty spot. "Who? How? It was here last night." Lady Eleanor took charge, her voice firm despite the shock. "Thomas, lock all the doors and gates immediately. No one leaves this manor until we get to the bottom of this. Gather the staff in the drawing room." Thomas nodded, his mind racing. He bolted the entrances and herded the servants together, maids, footmen, cooks, all looking nervous and confused. "Now, listen carefully," Lady Eleanor addressed them. "This is no ordinary theft. That emerald was priceless. If anyone knows anything, speak now. We are a family here, and honesty will be rewarded." The room was silent, save for shuffling feet and averted eyes. One footman mumbled, "I swear, ma'am, I was in bed all night." A maid added tearfully, "Me too. Who would do such a thing?" Thomas began his own quiet investigation, questioning each servant privately in the butler's pantry. "Where were you after the party ended?" he asked Sarah. "Cleaning the ballroom, sir, then straight to my quarters." He noted everything in a small notebook, his hand steady, but his heart heavy. Meanwhile, Victor pulled Lady Eleanor aside. "Aunt, this is serious. The stone's value could attract real thieves. We need outside help, a detective with experience in such matters." Lady Eleanor sighed, rubbing her temples. "You're right, Victor. Send for Sergeant Silas Reed. I've heard he's the best in London for unraveling mysteries like this." News of the detective's impending arrival heightened the tension. In the kitchens, servants muttered anxiously. "He'll grill us like criminals," one said. "What if he blames the wrong person?" Upstairs, Amelia retreated to her room, sitting by the window and staring at the gardens. When Lady Eleanor came to comfort her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders, Amelia whispered, "Aunt, why me? That stone felt special, but now it's gone and I feel empty." Lady Eleanor hugged her tighter. "We'll find it, dear. Try not to worry." But Amelia's silence hid deeper thoughts. She replayed the night in her mind, wondering if she had heard footsteps in the hall. As evening fell, the manor felt oppressive, like a cage. Thomas sat in his small office, smoking his pipe and pondering. "That emerald brought an ill wind from the start," he murmured. "I felt it in my bones when Miss Amelia opened that box." Outside, the gardens bloomed innocently, bees buzzing among the flowers, but inside, suspicion festered like a hidden wound. Who had taken the serpent's eye? Was it a servant tempted by wealth? A guest with sticky fingers, or something more sinister? The questions hung heavy in the air, and with Sergeant Reed on his way, the truth, or more shadows, loomed closer. Chapter 4. Cracks in the Family. Sergeant Silas Reed arrived at Hartley Manor the following morning, his carriage crunching on the gravel under a gray sky that mirrored the mood inside. He was a middle-aged man, tall and lean, with piercing gray eyes that seemed to see through walls, a neatly trimmed beard, and a calm demeanor that put no one at ease. Dressed in a simple brown coat, he carried a leather notebook and a magnifying glass in his pocket. "Lady Eleanor Hartley? I'm here about the missing emerald," he said politely at the door, tipping his hat. Thomas showed him in, feeling the weight of those sharp eyes. Reed wasted no time. He toured the manor methodically, examining Amelia's room first, the jewelry box, the windows, the floor for footprints. "Interesting," he murmured, kneeling to inspect a faint scratch on the windowsill. "No forced entry. This suggests an inside job." The staff watched from afar, whispering fearfully. He then interviewed Thomas in the study. "Tell me everything from the party's start to the discovery of the theft," Reed instructed, his voice even like a ticking clock. Thomas recounted the events in detail, the guests, the gifts, Amelia's excitement, the locking of doors. Reed jotted notes, asking probing questions. Who had access to the upstairs halls? Did anyone seem unusually interested in the emerald? Thomas replied honestly, "Everyone admired it, sir, but no one more than Miss Amelia." Next, Reed requested to speak with Amelia. She entered the drawing room reluctantly, her dress rumpled, her eyes avoiding Victor, who stood nearby. "Miss Hartley, describe the night for me," Reed said gently, but Amelia's face hardened. "I have nothing to add. The stone is gone, that's all." Her voice was sharp, like a door slamming. Reed studied her, noting the tension in her shoulders. "Sometimes what we don't say speaks volumes," he replied calmly. Amelia's cheeks flushed, and she stormed out without another word. Lady Eleanor followed, apologizing. "She's upset, Sergeant. This has shaken her deeply." The interview widened, cracks already forming. Victor, troubled by Amelia's coldness, sought her out in the library later that afternoon. Bookshelves towered around them, filled with leather-bound volumes smelling of age and wisdom. "Amelia, please," he pleaded, taking her hand. "I know you're hurting. If you saw something or suspect someone, tell me. I only want to help. We're family. More than that to me." Her eyes flashed with anger, pulling away. "You, Victor, you're the last person I should trust right now. Stay away from me and this mess." She left him standing there, stunned and heartbroken. "What have I done?" he whispered to the empty room, his mind reeling. Rumors swirled like autumn leaves in the wind. Downstairs, servants gossiped. Miss Amelia acts strange. Maybe she knows more than she's letting on. Upstairs, some guests who had lingered whispered about Victor. He was always close to her, jealous of the gift, perhaps. Even the 3 wandering peddlers, spotted in the village days before, came up. dark-skinned men with exotic accents, selling charms and asking odd questions about green jewels. They seemed harmless, but who knows, a gardener said. Trust eroded further that evening as Reed conferred with Thomas by the fireplace. Flames crackled, casting flickering shadows. "This isn't mere theft," Reed said lowly. "There's personal pain here." The young lady's silence, the gentleman's confusion, it's like a family secret unraveling. Thomas nodded sadly, puffing his pipe. "Aye, sir, the emerald has cracked our home like glass. I fear more breaks before it's mended." Lady Eleanor, meanwhile, felt the strain. Her headaches worsened, and she retired early, whispering to Reed, "Do what you must, but protect my niece. She's all I have left." Night deepened, and the manor was a labyrinth of shadows. Amelia cried softly in her bed, pillows muffling her sobs. Victor paced his guest room, replaying Amelia's words, doubt gnawing at him. Thomas locked the doors, praying for resolution. Outside, wind rustled the trees, carrying echoes of unseen watchers. The Serpent's eye was missing, but worse, the family's bonds were fracturing, piece by painful piece. Chapter 5. Web of Deceit. Days blurred into a tense haze at Hartley Manor, the missing emerald hanging over everyone like a storm cloud that refused to break. The once cheerful halls now echoed with forced politeness and suspicious glances. Meals were eaten in silence, smiles rare and strained. Sergeant Reed continued his work undeterred, pacing rooms with measured steps, his notebook filling with observations. He delved deeper into the servants' lives, asking about daily habits. "Who lights the evening lamps? Who hears the creaks at night?" he inquired, his eyes missing nothing. Each answer seemed innocent, yet he probed further, uncovering small inconsistencies that built like threads in a web. Suspicion soon focused on Lucy, a young maid with pale skin, sad blue eyes, and a habit of keeping to herself. She had worked at the manor for 2 years, quiet and efficient, but always seeming burdened by unspoken sorrows. When Reed questioned her in the servants' quarters, she fidgeted with her apron. "Where were you the night of the party, Lucy?" he asked calmly. "In my room, sir, after helping clean," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, eyes darting to the floor. "Did you leave later, perhaps for a walk?" She shook her head too quickly, hands trembling slightly. Reed noted it all. Thomas, who had always pitied Lucy for her lonely air, pulled her aside later in the garden. "Girl, if you're hiding something, tell me now. The truth will out, and it'll be kinder from your lips." Tears brimmed in her eyes. "Mr. Wilkins, you've been like a father to me, but I can't speak. If I do, everything I hold dear will shatter." She fled, leaving Thomas troubled and uneasy. Victor felt the web tighten around him, too. Whispers among the staff pointed to him. He had been the last to walk with Amelia that night, his admiration for her well known. "Jealousy can drive a man to folly," one cook muttered. Victor confronted Lady Eleanor in the study, his face flushed. "Aunt, you know me better than this. I've loved Amelia since we were children. I'd never steal from her." She placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "I believe you, dear boy. But the air here is poisoned. Doubt creeps in like fog, blinding us all." Amelia's behavior added layers to the deceit. She avoided Victor entirely, her once warm gaze now icy. One rainy afternoon in the drawing room, he approached her as she stared out at the pouring rain. "Amelia, why this wall between us? If you think I took the emerald, say it outright. I can bear the accusation, but not your silence." She turned, her face cold as marble. "Don't play innocent, Victor. You know exactly why. The truth would only hurt more. Stay away." Her words cut like knives, leaving him in agony, questioning his own memories of that night. Reed pursued external leads, venturing to the village to ask about the 3 peddlers. At the local inn, the barkeep described them. Odd fellows, dark skin, colorful scarves. They juggled balls, sang foreign songs, but always asked about lost green stones. Paid well for information, too. Reed confided in Thomas back at the manor. They're no ordinary travelers. They're hunters, patient and cunning, tied to the emerald's origins. Thomas shivered. Like ghosts from India, sir? Lies multiplied like shadows at dusk. Lucy hid her midnight walks to meet a secret lover in the village. Amelia guarded a glimpse she thought she saw that night, a figure in the hall. Victor masked his growing anger and confusion with polite nods. Lady Eleanor concealed her mounting fears, not wanting to alarm Amelia further. The web grew denser, entangling everyone. Then, tragedy struck. Lucy disappeared one evening. She didn't report for duties, her bed untouched. Search parties combed the grounds, lanterns bobbing in the dark. Hours later, a villager found her shawl by the riverbank. The next morning, her body was pulled from the water, pale and lifeless. A sodden note in her pocket, words blurred by water, hinted at despair. I can't live with Thomas grieved deeply, sitting by the fire with tears in his eyes. Poor lass, she carried a heavy secret to the grave. Victor, hearing the news, felt a chill. Was it guilt or fear of exposure? Reed remained composed, examining the scene. Her death is woven into this tapestry, he said to Thomas. Deceit hides truth only so long. It always unravels. The manor plunged into deeper sorrow that night. Amelia locked herself away, weeping for the lost maid. Victor wandered the halls in restless anger. Lady Eleanor prayed in her chamber for an end to the nightmare. The serpent's eye remained elusive, its web of lies darker and more deadly, leading to unknown depths. Chapter 6. Glimmers of Truth. Weeks after Lucy's heartbreaking death, Hartley Manor felt like a ghost of its former self. The halls echoed emptily, servants moved like shadows, and the gardens overgrown with neglect. Amelia withdrew into solitude, spending days in her room, reading or staring blankly. Victor, unable to bear the tension, left for a short trip to London, hoping distance would clear his mind. Lady Eleanor's health deteriorated rapidly. Frequent headaches turned to weakness, her once vibrant face now pale and drawn. Doctors came and went, prescribing rest and tonics, but worry etched deeper lines. One stormy evening, as thunder rumbled outside, news spread that Lady Eleanor had taken a turn for the worse. Thomas sat by her bedside, holding her frail hand. "My dear Thomas," she whispered, her voice faint but resolute, "promise me you'll protect Amelia. She's strong, but this shadow has weakened us all." Tears welled in his eyes. "With my life, my lady, you've been the heart of this home." She smiled weakly and closed her eyes. Days later, she passed peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by flickering candles. The manor mourned. Amelia collapsed in sobs, refusing food or company. Victor rushed back upon hearing, his face haggard from travel. At the funeral, under a drizzling sky in the family cemetery, Victor tried to comfort Amelia. "I'm here for you," he murmured, offering his arm. But she pulled away sharply. "Don't pretend, Victor. Your presence only reminds me of the pain." He retreated, whispering to himself in the rain-soaked garden that night. "What invisible wall divides us? I must uncover it, or lose her forever." The double loss, Lucy and Lady Eleanor, ignited Victor's determination. He sought out Mr. Harlan, the family solicitor, a shrewd man with wire-rimmed glasses and a stack of legal books in his cluttered office. "Mr. Harlan, I can't live in this fog anymore. Amelia's anger toward me. It's tied to the emerald. Help me find the truth." Harlan steepled his fingers, eyeing Victor thoughtfully. "Truth can be a double-edged sword, young man. It may heal, or it may wound deeper. Are you prepared?" Victor nodded firmly. "Anything to mend this rift." Together they launched a private inquiry. Harlan reviewed documents from Major Thornwood's will, noting odd clauses about the emerald. Victor re-interviewed servants, who shared hesitant details. A shadowy figure seen near the stairs, unusual noises. They visited the village, questioning innkeepers about the peddlers. "They vanished right after the theft," one said. Clues were fragments, like puzzle pieces, scattered by wind. Victor's path led to Dr. Elias Crow, the doctor's assistant, a peculiar man with a pale complexion, weary but kind eyes, and a limp from an old injury. Shunned by many for his odd manner, he lived in a small cottage on the estate. Victor knocked one foggy evening. "Dr. Crow, I need your wisdom. Amelia believes something terrible of me, but I don't understand why." Crow invited him in, brewing tea by the fire. "Sit, Mr. Langford. That night holds secrets buried in the mind." He explained records from the party. A tonic given for headaches contained opium, which could induce sleepwalking states, actions performed without memory. Victor's heart pounded. "You mean I might have taken the emerald myself unknowingly?" Crow nodded gravely. "Precisely. If Amelia witnessed it, she'd see betrayal, not innocence." A glimmer of hope pierced Victor's despair. "Then prove it. Recreate the conditions. I'll submit to any test." Crow agreed, his eyes lighting with purpose. "For truth's sake, yes. But brace yourself. Revelations come at a cost." They planned meticulously that night, poring over notes amid candlelight. Victor lay awake later, thoughts swirling, Amelia's smiles from the party, her cold stares now, her tears at the funeral. "If this clears my name," he whispered, "perhaps love can bloom again." The manor slept uneasily, but for Victor, the first glimmers of truth shone through the darkness, promising clarity amid the chaos. Chapter 7. The Revelation Night. The evening of Dr. Crow's experiment arrived like a long-awaited dawn, though tension hung thick in the air. The drawing room was transformed to mirror the birthday party, curtains drawn against the night, lamps casting soft golden glows, a small table in the center with a replica box mimicking the emerald's case. Scented candles burned, filling the room with lavender to evoke memories. Victor sat in an armchair, his face pale but determined, hands clasped tightly. Thomas Wilkins and Mr. Harlan observed from the shadows, sworn to secrecy. Dr. Crow paced slowly, explaining the plan. "We'll recreate the exact conditions, the opium dose, the atmosphere. If your body repeats the actions, we'll see the truth unfold." Victor nodded, swallowing hard. "I'm ready. For Amelia, for us all. This must end." Thoughts raced through his mind. What if it proved his guilt? But no, innocence burned in his heart. Crow administered the opium carefully, a small vial mixed with water. At first, nothing changed. Victor felt drowsy, his eyelids heavy. Then, as if in a dream, he rose unsteadily. His eyes glazed. He approached the table, opened the box, and lifted the fake emerald with protective care, clutching it to his chest. "Must keep it safe," he murmured incoherently, pacing the room before returning it and collapsing back into the chair. Thomas gasped, hand over mouth. "By the saints, it's true! The young master took it without knowing." Harlan nodded solemnly, scribbling notes. Crow observed calmly, timing every move. The opium induced a somnambulistic state, actions without conscious recall. When Victor awoke hours later, groggy and confused, Crow recounted the events. Victor's eyes widened in shock, then relief flooded him. "So that's why Amelia turned from me. She must have seen me that night, thinking I stole it deliberately." Crow placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Yes." Her silence was protection. For her heart, and perhaps for you. Now, confront her with this truth. Victor wasted no time. With Harlan's persuasion, Amelia agreed to meet in the library the next morning. Sunlight filtered through windows as she entered, wary and guarded. Victor stood, voice trembling with emotion. "Amelia, listen. I know now what you witnessed. You saw me take the emerald, but I was under opium spell, no memory, no intent. Dr. Crow proved it last night." Tears welled in her eyes, her defenses crumbling. "Victor, I saw you in the hall, slipping away with it. My heart broke. I thought you betrayed me for greed." He stepped closer, taking her hands. "Never. I love you too much for that. Forgive me for the pain, even unintended." Sobs escaped her as she embraced him. "I forgive you. I never stopped caring. The hurt blinded me." For the first time in months, warmth returned to their eyes. The wall shattered. Yet the emerald's fate lingered. Crow suspected it had passed hands that night, perhaps to another under similar influence or stolen by opportunists. The three peddlers remained a key, but the revelation mended hearts. Peace trickled in like morning light. That night, the manor breathed easier. Amelia slept soundly, Victor dreamed of futures, Thomas smiled quietly. The serpent's eye's shadow lifted slightly, but the final piece awaited. Chapter 8. The Serpent's Homecoming. With trust restored between Amelia and Victor, a fragile peace settled over Hartley Manor. The emerald's absence still loomed, its value not just monetary but symbolic of the turmoil it had wrought. Mr. Harlan called a private meeting in the study, fire crackling warmly. Amelia, Victor, Thomas, and Dr. Crow gathered. "We know how the stone vanished from Amelia's room," Harlan said firmly. "But where did it go after Victor's unwitting act?" Crow opened his notebook. "Likely carried away by another that night. The Indian peddlers, they've been shadows in this tale, devoted to returning it home." Amelia nodded thoughtfully. "If it's sacred, perhaps it's best, back where it belongs." Victor agreed. "Let's trace them. Closure is what we need." The search intensified. Harlan used London contacts to inquire about the peddlers. Reports came of 3 men performing in markets, juggling and fortune-telling, but always probing for news of a glowing green stone. Victor and Crow traveled to the city, navigating bustling streets filled with vendors' cries and horse-drawn carts. In a crowded square they spotted the trio, the tall one juggling flames, the sturdy one playing a flute, the elder telling stories to wide-eyed children. "They're the ones," Victor whispered. Discreet inquiries revealed more. A pawnbroker confessed to buying the emerald from a desperate man weeks ago. Cousin Reginald, a distant relative plagued by debts, who had visited the party and seized the opportunity after Victor's trance. Reginald sold it hastily, then died mysteriously soon after, perhaps from guilt or the curse. The peddlers, ever vigilant, had tracked Reginald and reclaimed the stone peacefully, vanishing eastward. Months later, a letter arrived from India, sealed with temple wax. It described the serpent's eye restored to its altar, glowing amid chants and incense, the curse lifted from distant lands. Amelia read it aloud, tears of relief falling. "It's over. The shadow has passed." She turned to Victor, taking his hand. "Now, we build our life without it." Victor proposed that evening in the garden, under stars. "Marry me, Amelia. Let's turn pain into joy." She accepted with a kiss. Thomas, watching from afar, puffed his pipe contentedly. "Love endures," he murmured. Dr. Crow closed his journal, a faint smile on his lips. Truth has prevailed. Hartley Manor revived. Laughter returned, gardens bloomed, and new beginnings dawned. The serpent's eye, back in its jungle home, left behind lessons of forgiveness and strength. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories.